Now, could AI, artificial intelligence, save the NHS? I think the short answer is probably no, but it could improve things. A successful trial in one trust has seen the number of missed appointments slashed by a third in just 6 months. Well, joining me now to discuss this is former NHS Trust Chairman Roy Lilly. Good morning to you, Roy.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, this is very different from, you know, when you have a doctor's appointment and then you get a text from the GP surgery saying, don't forget you got a doctor's appointment in 3 days' time. If you're not coming, just text back you're not coming, then we can cancel it. Now that, you know, that's just basic technology which they should have been using for the last 20 years. The AI is very different, isn't it? What does it do?
Well, do you know, I think this is the first time in all the years you've been kind enough to invite me on your programs that we've actually got some good news to talk about. So it's
Yay!
I feel I'm the wrong guy. I'm in the wrong place. This is the product of something quite interesting that I've been interested in for ages in the NHS. It's called the Clinical Entrepreneurial Program, and it's where doctors and clinicians generally are encouraged to use technology, AI and what have you, software that they develop to solve problems in the NHS. So instead of some big international IT company coming in and saying, we've got this wonderful thing, you've got to buy it. These are people who actually
work in the
invent
NHS
stuff
and
at workplace.
Okay, so what does it actually do?
Well, it looks at the background of the people who have the appointments.
Yeah.
And so it takes into account jobs, it takes into account shift work, it takes into account travel to the place, it takes into account the weather, it takes into account the past history of not turning up, and is there any correlation between external factors and arriving and turning up, like bus routes and things like that. And so what it's done, it's stopped a lot of the no-shows, which are the big problem. And it also then creates a reserve, a backup of people who at short notice will come in and infill if there is a no-show.
Okay, so basically, is it saying they're not going to give appointments to people who are just unreliable, or they just basically we're going to double book those appointments because they probably won't turn up?
Yes, it's a forecasting model to look at when things are likely.
But can I just say, if I worked as a GP receptionist for a summer, I could, after about 4 weeks, have told you who was going to be reliable, who wasn't. I mean, you know, I've never been late for or not turned up to a doctor's appointment. I would think that's height of rudeness, and I'd only want one because I needed one. There are loads of people who don't turn up. And I know there's lots of criticism. People don't turn up to a hospital appointment or a GP appointment. Lots of people, they don't turn up because the appointment is in 3 months' time. They don't, look, I live on an electronic diary. I've got my life organised. Lots of people don't live like that. They don't know they've got an appointment. People don't turn up because there's a letter that was sent to them at an address they lived at 3 years ago, or it's arrived the day after the appointment. I've had that happen to me because of hopeless bureaucracy in the NHS. Or, frankly, they've already recovered. Or in some cases, because people have already died for the thing they were going to have the appointment for. The NHS is the reason why people don't turn up to appointments.
Well, in large measure, you are right. And that's because the waiting lists are so long and people get an appointment so long in advance. And all the things that you've just mentioned are right. People forget, get careless, get better, or move, you know, all kinds of things happen.
No one answers the phone when you try to cancel either.
Well, all of that. I mean, the NHS has been classically very bad. The GPs are a lot better at handling it now. Some of the hospitals are a lot better with the texting and so on that you get from restaurants, or if you get a delivery of a new, I don't know, washing machine or something, they pepper you with text saying, by the way. Yeah. And so, you know, all of those techniques, the NHS is catching up. But this particular program, it's interesting because it was on a one-year trial. And what is interesting to me is that so often we see these things trialed and they just kind of disappear into the undergrowth. This has been such a success that it's being rolled out across the NHS. So it's a huge success for the Clinical Entrepreneurs Program.
I would say, but but there was such a waste of NHS resources. I remember a few years ago having to have an MRI scan for a back problem, and I turned up half an hour early because it was a new hospital and I wanted to make sure I had somewhere to park and things. And I said, oh, look, I just to let you know, I'm here, I'll come back in half an hour. And they went, oh no, you can have it now. And I went, have I got the wrong time for my appointment? And they said, no. I mean, basically about 30% of people who booked in don't turn up. We haven't had 2 people turn up, so you can come in straight away. Massively expensive machine, really, skilled staff, and the machine is sitting empty. And they said that was the norm every single day. I mean, that's an absolute disaster of a policy with expensive machinery. I thought it was crazy. But let me ask you about something else, because we've just had some new NHS waiting list information in the last half hour. The waiting list for routine hospital treatment in England has, Roy, There must be something in the water. More good news while you're here. It's fallen for the 4th month in a row. An estimated 7.58 million treatments were waiting to be carried out at the end of January, relating to 6.3 million patients. It's down slightly from 7.6 million treatment. I mean, I'm trying to sound happy. The peak was 7.7.
No, but be fair. I mean, the trajectory is right, isn't it? I mean, look, as soon as I finish here, I'm going to go and buy a lottery ticket. This must be a special day in my life. Look, we all know that the NHS has been struggling. We know why it's been struggling. We've had a period now with that where there aren't any strikes, and the big problem has been with strikes. That is hugely disruptive. We've discussed this many times.
All these problems existed before the strikes.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get once you get this period of calm, the NHS can roll up its sleeves and it can get through waiting lists. I mean, waiting list is not a waiting list. 60% of people on a waiting list are waiting for a diagnostic. Many of those are quite quick to do. You just have to get people in to do it. And of that 60%, probably only 20% will need a period of inpatient care. So they can
but they don't know which ones. No, the most terrifying statistic at the end of this press release is that the proportion of patients in England waiting longer than 62 days in January, that's the latest figures, so waiting more than 2 months from an urgent suspected cancer referral or consultant upgrade to their first definitive treatment for cancer was 62%. It's down from just under 66% in December. Basically, best part of 2/3 of patients in this country who the GP says, I think you've got cancer, you need to have a referral, or, yeah, you've definitely got cancer, you need to see a top consultant on this. They wait more than 2 months. That is obscene. That is disgusting and obscene and unacceptable in a first world country.
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, the NHS is, it's taken a battering. It's trying to recover. I think.
No, it gave the country a battering. The NHS didn't take a battering. The NHS gave the country a battering by turning off their services for the best part of a year.
No, that wasn't.
They're not the
NHS.
victims. We are.
That was no. That was a political decision. Nothing to do with the NHS. The NHS would have sorted on, and in many cases it did. And actually, during COVID, a lot of the cancer waiting lists actually came down. So I'm not having that. I know
people who died as a result of their cancer treatment being cancelled. So I'm sorry. Roy, go and buy that lottery ticket. There's still some good news. It's going in the right direction. Thank you so much for joining. Always a pleasure. Goodbye. Roy Lilly, thank you. Philip Ingram, you had a successful cancer treatment. You got it on time. That's great. Not everyone does.
I'm through COVID.
But just AI, just using more technology, this does seem to me like the NHS just sort of doing basic stuff.
Well, and that's where a lot of the problems are. It's with the basics. It's people not turning up for appointments. It's the machine sitting empty, as you heard. So if the NHS can start to fix that, it'll reduce that waiting list even more.
Yeah, I mean, every single tale I hear, exactly. It's just you've got the staff, you've got the machinery, you've got the diagnostics, but no one's there because they haven't got the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is the problem. We have third world bureaucracy in a first world country. That's the trouble.